Lost in the discussion of the Warriors capturing yet another championship, the Celtics made a run that I wouldn't say it caught people by surprise considering how strong they finished the season. But remember, at one point early in the year, they were a team struggling to make the playoffs. Things weren't looking too good for a while there, but what was the major reason for their turnaround? Was it Jason Tatum finally starting to knock down shots? Was it the newfound chemistry that took a while to develop under a new coach? However, the Time Lord, aka Robert Williams, was in my opinion the primary reason for the Celtics excelling and making the finals run they made. I think he's on his way to becoming an all-time legendary defender, and the numbers back it up. Celtics fans know how good he is, but now it's time for the world to know. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today let's take a detailed look at what makes Robert Williams so good. As we all know, defense carried the Boston Celtics and was the primary reason for their success. They finished the 2021-22 season with the second best defensive rating in the league, and number 1 in opponents' field goal percentage. They held their opponents to just 43.4% shooting from the field. Williams had a huge role in this. According to StatMuse.com, opposing players shot 6.4% worse when guarded by Robert Williams. That's the biggest difference by any defender who contested at least 500+ shots in the season. To add on to that, he finished 4th in defensive box plus minus and 1st in individual defensive rating, even ahead of Rudy Gobert. However, unlike Gobert and many other bigger defenders, there's something special about Robert Williams. According to coach Ime Udoka, a major adjustment that contributed to the Celtics' turnaround was how they played Robert Williams on defense. This is what he said about that. "We changed some things defensively, whether we're having Williams off ball more, not as much on the ball, and so he can be a help side defender instead of switching as much and keeping him closer to the basket. We were taking him away from the basket early in the year, and that was obviously taking away a rim protector and his comfort zone." Here's an image that described exactly what Udoka was talking about. As you can see from this graph, the y-axis stands for DPE, or Defensive Position Estimate, to calculate which positions Williams defends. 1 is for point guard, 2 is for shooting guard, 3 small forward, 4 power forward, and 5 is for center. The number got lower once they made the change, which meant Williams spent more time contesting guards and wing players at the basket as a weak side defender, and less time contesting big men. Coincidentally, Ime Udoka made this change on January 15th when their record was 22-22. Boston proceeded to finish the season going 29-9. You could say this was a turning point in the season for them, and they rode this wave all the way to the finals. So, his defensive prowess, especially his defensive versatility, has often been compared to Draymond Green. Both of them also got drafted pretty deep into their drafts, with Williams being the 27th pick and Green being 35th, so you know they had something to prove. Heck, Green has mentioned him multiple times too on his podcast, giving him praise. What jumps out to me is the way that Robert Williams erases mistakes. Williams covers up the mistakes at the rim. He's erasing shots left and right. Jordan Poole had one where he cut down the lane and didn't even know he was open. I dropped it down the lane, and by the time he turned to lay it up, Robert Williams came from the opposite wing and blocked the shot. He was nowhere in the play. This was after a regular season game when the Warriors played the Celtics, and Williams' defense really impressed Dre. The comparison between them, though, I don't know. I do see some similarities, I guess. Both are undersized big men who are quick and can guard almost every position effectively. They both use their knowledge of positioning and their long wingspan to compensate for their lack of height. Heck, Williams has a ridiculous 7'6" wingspan at a height of just 6'8". That wingspan is longer than Joel Embiid's, for comparison. However, there are differences though. Dre is more adept at using his hands to disrupt passing lanes, while Williams has way more verticality and athleticism. That's reflected in his block numbers too. Despite averaging less than 30 minutes a game, Williams finished 2nd in the league in blocks per game with 2.2. Williams is also quicker than Draymond ever was. Plus, I know this video is about his defense, but offensively, they're so completely different. Draymond, as y'all know, is more of a facilitator, and even though his jumper has been off in recent years, he's still a better outside shooter than Williams. who basically lives off of dunks and putbacks. In the regular season, he averaged nearly 4 offensive rebounds a game, third in the league behind Steven Adams and Mitchell Robinson. Playstyle-wise, he still mirrors that of most pick-and-roll centers, but he has that extra gear, that extra juice that separates him from the rest of the pack. When Marcus Smart won the Defensive Player of the Year, it brought some mixed feelings. On one hand, you can't discredit the Celtics defense, and Smart is the leader of the pack, the most vocal on the team. Plus, we've gotten used to it being a big man award for such a long time that we're not used to seeing a guard win it. However, among all Celtics players, Williams, I'd say, had the biggest impact on the floor. If he wasn't struggling with injuries and played more games, I think he had a chance at winning it. Some looked at Robert Williams as a guy who came out of nowhere to have such a massive impact on a team contending for the title. But that wasn't actually the case for those who followed his journey prior to the NBA. In college, he was named the SEC Defensive Player of the Year for 2 straight years. His scouting report on draft night listed all the strengths that he's currently displaying in the NBA right now. The size, the speed, the mobility. A report stated he, quote, moves very well for his size, both with and without the ball, does a good job of anticipating where missed shots will go, and is very good at getting position inside. Can use his explosive leaping ability to finish strong around the rim, and has the strength to power through contact. That was spot on, because that's what we see him doing in his short time in the NBA thus far. Williams has all the physical tools and the basketball intellect to become the perfect modern defensive big. The funny thing is, he wasn't projected to go that low in the draft. He fell to the 27th pick to Boston due to his questionable motor. Kind of a strange piece of criticism, honestly. Danny Ainge, of course, shrugged it off as he responded, "It's hard to have a low motor and be the Defensive Player of the Year 2 years in a row in a tough conference." Well said, Mr. Ainge. It also didn't help that earlier in his career, Williams overslept a few times and it caused him to miss his press conference, and then he missed his team's flight. That's how he got his nickname Time Lord. He had trouble being on time and people made a joke of it. Though it wasn't that serious. Regardless of these mishaps, Williams' work ethic was never put into question. He came in somewhat out of shape and had some nagging injuries, but still spent all of his time working to get better. It took a while for him to get his footing, but a few years later, he's becoming the player the Celtics dreamed he could be. Anyway, that's all folks. Robert Williams is on the path to becoming a perennial all-defender, and he might win a few Defensive Player of the Year awards down the road. As for whether or not he can be an all-star and take that next step offensively, I'm not sure. It's hard to see him expanding his game beyond alley-oops and putbacks, but the Celtics don't need him to score. As long as he continues doing what he's doing, continue to stay healthy and get better, this team will remain a contender for years to come. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.